Let's have a conversation about mangoes in the country. AgriTalk, where we talk about food security, agribusiness, promoting agriculture because agriculture remains the backbone of our economy. Now, there's, for many years, mangoes and the knowledge of mangoes in the country, in the market, was mangoes coming from the coastal region. Embedodo. Limekoma.
Yes,
Go
yes.
on.
I don't
Uh-huh.
think of the song.
Go on, go on.
Imelala Mchangani.
And then we started now seeing other regions producing mangoes in greater numbers. And then we go to a point where, in fact, nowadays, people from the lower eastern, where the president will be visiting, there's a time when they are the most sought after neighbors and friends in the country. Why? Because it's mango season. And mangoes from especially Kitui, Makueni, and some parts of Ukambani, sweet mangoes. But mangoes are also grown in other parts of the country. The issue, though, is are we producing enough mangoes to meet the demand locally? Are we producing enough mangoes to meet the export demand? Are farmers getting the benefit of their mango trees? Are farmers being able to produce mangoes, to harvest mangoes, and to take the mangoes to the market without the mangoes getting spoiled? People will tell you, we get to a certain point where they tell you, just come and collect the mangoes. Why? Because they're rotting here. How do we help our farmers to make sure that they manage their crop and also manage the fruit when it's going to the market? Joining us for this conversation is somebody who's an expert on not mangoes, but on the management side. Because what eats the mangoes is the insects. And this person is an expert on matters of insects. He is Dr. Shepard Ndlela from the International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology, ICIPE. Dr. Ndlela, welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you so much.
It's good to have you on the show. We call that the hot seat. We just warm it up for you so that we can have a good conversation. Tell us about ICIPE, first of all. Insect physiology, ecology. Sounds like what Hillary went to study. Rocket science.
That's a very big institution. A very big institution in the sense that it's one of those institutions in the world that deals with insect pests in the context of 4 themes, namely plant health, animal health, human health, and environmental health. So I come from plant health, specifically where we look at insect pests that are a menace to men in terms of plants. Yes.
The question that comes to my mind when I think of insects, in fact, the word pests, what is implied in that word is they are bothersome. They are not useful. But a little reading tells me that insects are not always bothersome or unuseful. Insects can be useful. Now, when we talk about the subject of mangoes that we're going to get towards, I'm sure in ICIPE, you also look at the positive sides or the positive part that insects play in food production.
Indeed, there are many projects that are in ICIPE.
Yes.
I might not be able to go deeper into these projects,
Yes.
as there are also other specialists who deal with those.
Yes.
But on the positive side of it, we can talk of pollinators, talk of bees. We have a whole department in environmental health who are dealing with bees. On the positive side of insects in terms of food, feed, we also have experts who are dealing with those insects in terms of how can insects be harnessed into food, how can insects be harnessed into animal feed, how can insects be harnessed into plant nutrition, for example, fertilizers, all those kind of things. There are people who are looking into those issues.
So, Dr. Ndlela, what exactly is your work? What does it involve? And then how is this directly connected to mango farming in Kenya?
Like I said, I'm coming from plant health in ICIPE. I'm a postdoctoral research fellow I'm working on post-harvest systems together with other things that we do in ICIPE. First of all, let me try to link what we are doing to mango production. I'll start with the formation of the African Fruit Fly Initiative way back in the 90s, formed as a result of cries by farmers. What can we do? We have insect pests that are making life unbearable for us. We have mangoes, we are producing mangoes, but nothing is coming out of it. Hence, the African Fruit Fly Initiative was formed, which later changed into the African Fruit Fly Program, AFFP. Why change into AFFP into a program instead of an initiative? We are now looking at different aspects, not only fruit flies, because when we go to mango, there are many constraints that affect the production of mangoes. For example, we have diseases. For example, we have other insect pests which are not fruit flies. Talk of thrips, talk of mango seed weevil, talk of mealybugs. All those are insect pests that affect mangoes. So we wanted to look at the mango production holistically from all angles. But today I'm here specifically on fruit flies. But the most important thing that I'm stressing is that this is a program, an initiative which started from the farmers. Hence, even what we are doing today, it has to have the farmer inside. Whatever we develop is participatory. The farmer is part of it. We do not develop solutions that we hand over to the farmer, but we work hand in glove with the farmers to develop solutions according to their context, according to their need. Hence, we are here dealing with the fruit fly.
Dr. Ndlela, is the fruit fly the same? The fruit fly that you'll find maybe in the coastal area, the same one that you're going to find in the highlands?
Someone might ask that why fruit fly? What has changed? What's so spectacular about talking about fruit fly, fruit fly, fruit fly? Let me take it from a bigger angle so that we understand this. Many people don't understand this. I will take it from a biblical point of view, the point of creation. When God created the heavens and the earth, he also created fruit flies. So it does not mean that in Africa or in Kenya we did not have fruit flies. We had fruit flies. There are fruit flies called ceratitis. There are fruit flies called ducus. These, God created them and put them in Africa. Then he created some other fruit flies which are called Bactrocera. These, he placed them in Asia. Right. Let me take it from this angle. The ceratitis species which were in Africa, these are native to Africa. They are also here in Kenya. They are in the coast, they are in eastern, they are in central. They were created here. At that particular time when they were created up to a certain point, around 2003, out of every 100 mangoes that a farmer would produce, ceratitis, which is native to Africa, which was also native to Kenya, was destroying at least between 20 to 30 mangoes. That is up to 2003. But what happened in 2003? Something new. A species which was not in Africa, which originated in Asia. God had placed it in Asia. But because of many things, transport, people are moving from Asia to Africa. We are also trading with those people. And also flight, climate change. All those things are happening. We had the fruit fly pest Bactrocera dorsalis, by then called Bactrocera invadens. It was first detected in the coastal regions of Kenya. So we don't know how it entered, but that was the point where it was detected. What did it do? It suddenly increased the damage levels in mango. What was it causing? Out of every 100 mangoes that a farmer would produce, Bactrocera dorsalis would destroy 80 of them, meaning that you are left with only 20 mangoes. So you will see that the indigenous species of fruit flies, which we had naturally, in as much as they were causing menace to men, they were not so much. But when Bactrocera dorsalis came, everything ballooned. Everything was blown out of proportion. Yes.
And is it around the same time when we see the introduction of this new species in this country that then now we also see that there is then the inability to keep up with production? Because a large number in terms of percentage that is being destroyed by this fruit fly.
So when I talk about Bactrocera dorsalis invading Africa, but the first point being Kenya in 2003, I'm talking about a completely new thing that we did not know. So people were overwhelmed. How do we control this one? Now, what happens, one may ask, why was Ceratitis not causing so much problems? It is because Ceratitis corsera had natural enemies, or in the field when you go, there are some things that control Ceratitis corsera because they developed together. Over the course of the years when they were created, they were together. They know how to control each other and check the population dynamics. When the pest goes up, the natural enemy goes down, those dynamics. But now, enter Bactrocera dorsalis. It did not come with its natural enemies. Hence, it was causing so much harm. Right. So this is a time when the farmers are saying, how do we control this one? So the first thing that they did was to pump so much chemicals. But there comes a point when the chemicals cannot help you anymore. And again, this is the time we see the lucrative export markets, Europe, the USA. You know, they have what they call maximum residue levels.
Yep.
When we export, whatever we are exporting to the Europeans, to the Americans, they check the chemical levels. They can tell. When they have your mango there, they can tell you sprayed A, B, C, D. It's all inside. So in short, I'm saying chemicals that are sprayed are inside the food and they can be traced. So they came up with maximum residue levels. And it was seen that these mangoes that we are exporting, not only from Kenya, but from all over Africa, they had high levels of chemicals. They said, no, we don't need your mangoes. Sell them elsewhere, because the chemicals are not good for us.
Yeah.
We were left with nothing. We were left now on the drawing board. This is the point when now the farmers came to ICIPE and said, ICIPE, you deal with insects. How can we control?
Deal with this particular one.
Yes.
Let's bring in this conversation, at that point in the conversation, somebody from the agency in government that is responsible for checking as we export produce out of this country, the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, and the Chief Inspector in the Phytosanitary Division, George Momanyi, joins us on the line. Good morning, George.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, you've had the background that Dr. Ndlela has given us so well that, get to understand the Ceratitis and the Bactrocera dorsalis and all that, and the impact that it has had. And then getting to a point where the export market banned the export of our mangoes. As KEFIS and the work that you do, just give us the impact that such decisions have on the exporters.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. First, I would start by saying that KEFIS is a government parastatal whose responsibility is to assure the quality of agricultural inputs and produce to prevent adverse impact on the economy, the environment, and human health. So we basically do what you mentioned, phytosanitary services, that is regulation of imports and exports. But your question more borders on the export aspect, where we assure compliance with import requirements of our trading partners. So when this issue of Bactrocera came in, a lot of markets got sensitive with our products because they didn't want us to export infested fruits to their countries. So this led to what we call export restrictions to our produce. And the onus was on us to prove to the rest of our trading partners that we are able to manage that fruit fly. For your information, we do have inspectors at the entry point and exit. And the work is to inspect the material that is leaving the country. But the challenge with this fruit fly is you can hardly see it visually. When you are inspecting a mature hard mango, which is to be exported, you'll hardly know there are some eggs that have been laid inside that fruit. So you can easily assure something that has some eggs inside, and then it ends up hatching once it gets to the other end, and then that's how the interceptions come about. So then what the challenge has been is that when we would do that fisher inspection, we would still end up with some of those interceptions coming. And it reached a point in 2014 when we felt, okay, this doesn't seem to be working very well for the EU market. We said, wait a minute, instead of us getting a ban from the EU because our products are not good enough, let's on our own account do a self-ban, whereby now we'll take time because we're not able to assure quality at the exit points. We needed to go to the farmer level and do farm certification, where we work with the farmers, with the exporters to make sure that they're able to manage the fruit fly at the farm level. And then we do that certification such that by the time it's reaching the entry point, exit point, and prior to the export, then it's in a good condition. So those are the interventions we've been doing with farmers, making sure that that product is complying before we would be able to resume the exports. And basically that's how we've been working closely with ICIPE. They've also been developing a lot of technologies by virtue of them being in research. They have a lot of integrated pest management options for the fruit fly. So ours has been working with them in terms of sensitizing farmers and also encouraging the farmers to implement those integrated pest management measures. And once we do our monitoring and find out that those interventions are working, then our work then would be just to assure compliance in the export. So briefly, that's what we've been doing with the farmers.
Thank you very much, Momanyi. And I think that's also a good way to approach it. Start at the production level. Coming back to you, Dr. Ndlela. So you have noticed that this is happening, that farmers went ahead and started spraying too much chemical, and then they came to you and they said, help us. What interventions then do you come up with?
There are various interventions that we came up with. First, maybe we have to understand what the fruit fly does. Like George has said, the fruit fly on its back, it has a pointed structure, which is like an injection. When it goes to a mango, it injects eggs inside the mango. So sometimes, in most cases, we just eat the eggs. When these eggs are inside the mango, they hatch.
City has just
they become
a
maggots.
visual.
These maggots start moving inside as they're feeding.
Right.
By the time sometimes we consume the maggots are still small. But there comes a point when the maggots are big and they've caused so much damage and they pop out, they go into the soil. Right. So we had to look at the life cycle. We have to study the pest first. Because like I said, Bactrocera dorsalis was new to us. By then it was called Bactrocera invadens. It later changed the name to Bactrocera dorsalis. We had to look at all stages of development and try to look at the weakest link where we can strike the pest. ICIPE, together with regional, national, international partners, we developed what we are calling an integrated pest management package for the fruit fly in mango. First, we have what is called male annihilation. Male annihilation, in simple terms, we are saying in the orchard, we are removing the males. We use an attractant, which is called methyl eugenol. This is one of the most powerful attractants known to men. It can attract fruit fly to a range of as much as 1 kilometer away. So when you put these traps with methyl eugenol, we use it in traps, it attracts only the males in your farm or in your place. In short, we are saying the females are left behind without males. whatever eggs that they will lay are not fertilized. So there is no development. So in short, over time, we will knock down the population of fruit flies. That's male annihilation.
Is there any benefit that this insect offers at all? Because it looks as though, or because, you know, they say some are good for one or the other, right? Is there any benefit that this has so that it could then point to the cost that is being taken now to basically annihilate them completely? Any benefit that they offer at all that one would say, well, if you're destroying this, you're destroying a population that could essentially form some kind of benefit for nature and the environment? Is there benefit at all?
From the point of Bactrocera dorsalis, it is offering us nothing except tears.
Okay.
Although there are some fruit flies which are pollinators.
Right.
But this particular one that we are talking about, all it is giving us is giving us tears.
This attractant, is it only attracting the male Bactrocera dorsalis, or is this also attracting the male of our indigenous fruit fly?
It is so specific to Bactrocera. It will not attract any other fruit flies. But now, in as much as we have Bactrocera dorsalis, we still have to control even the native ones. This is why we have developed a technology called baiting. Baiting is specifically food. As fruit flies are developing, they need protein in their bodies. We have developed this protein that we give or we toxify it. We mix it with chemicals. But now it is different from spraying because we are only mixing and applying this protein pesticide mixture on only 1 square meter of the tree instead of spraying the whole tree. And again, we are not spraying on the mangoes, we are spraying on the tree trunk or on the leaves. So baiting now, this is protein. All fruit flies, whether they are these indigenous ones, whether they are these that came from Asia, they will go to this protein source because it is food. When they eat this, they die. So we are hitting Bactrocera dorsalis. This one now hits the males and the females.
Interesting. Is Bactrocera dorsalis as harmful to the fruits in Asia where it came from?
Indeed, it is harmful. But because it has those natural enemies which are co-developed with, co-evolved with the pest there, it might not be as much as what it is doing in Africa. But realizing that there is this link between co-evolved natural enemies, we call them the farmers' friends. ICIPE with other partners, we went to Asia and said, okay, what are these natural enemies that are helping the Asians? We brought those natural enemies. We have 2 natural enemies. They are big names. Diacas morphalongicodata, it is a natural enemy or a farmer's friend. Phopias aricenas, another farmer's friend. But now the difference is that Phopias aricenas, what it does now when we release it, we are producing these at ICIPE in millions. We have been releasing them in Kenya. We have released them in Tanzania. We have released them in the whole of Africa. Now we are in Southern Africa. We are releasing them there. Why? Phopias aricenas, when it is released, it goes into the farm. It goes to the infested mangoes. It uses its antenna and the feet to find out where the fruit fly larvae are inside the mango. Then it also have a long injection. Once it knows that, okay, there is an egg here. So Phopias aricenas controls the eggs of the fruit fly. Diacas morphalongicodata controls the maggots. It injects its egg inside the egg of the fruit fly. Now, whatever escapes at this egg stage, Diacas morpha comes later now. It looks for the maggots, the eggs that are hatched into the maggots, which are now eating the mango. It also removes its injection. It goes to the maggot. It places its egg inside the maggot. So there's no development. At the end of the day, we are saying the fruit fly will not develop to adult stage. The life cycle is cut there. So already I've talked about 3 methods that we are using. Male annihilation, we're removing the males. Baiting, this is food, we're removing both the males and the females. The parasitoid or the natural enemy or the farmer's friend, it is removing the eggs of the fruit fly as well as the maggots. So these are some of the strategies that we are using.
The International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology. We are talking about mangoes. When you hear all those things that Dr. Ndlolo is talking about, Ndlela is talking about, Bactoceras dorsalis, and we are talking about mangoes. Just the bottom line is mango and management of mango, pre-harvest and post-harvest. Dr. Shepard Ndlela is from ICIPE, and also on the line with us is George Momanyi, who's the Chief Inspector at KEFIS, the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service. In the Situation Room is Eric Latif, Ndu Oko, CT Muga, and Dr. Shepard Ndlela from ICIPE. Joining us on the line is George Momanyi. He's a Chief Inspector in the Phytosanitary Division at KEFIS. KEFIS is the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service. It's a government agency that looks at the health of our plants, just to speak directly. We're having a conversation about mangoes, okay? So farmers have been growing mangoes for many years in this country. Farmers have been selling mangoes to the local market, to the export market. And for many years, mangoes have basically been dealing with fruit flies. And Mwalimu has been telling us, now Dr. Shepard Ndlela is our Mwalimu, the scientist in the house. He's been telling us about the history. So we have had some insects, fruit flies that are indigenous to Africa and these parts of the world. Those ones have lived with us for a long time. And during the time when they were the only ones in the region, farmers would get about 20 to 30% losses because of the fruit fly. And then come in this new century, and some fruit flies that are resident in Asian countries found their way into our countries, and these ones are bad, and they've ended up pushing the losses to about 80%. Out of every 100 mangoes harvested by a farmer, 80 would actually just go bad.
And
so
we call them invasive.
They're invasive.
Yeah.
So the scientists at ICIPE plus the experts at KEFIS were approached by farmers, and they have been working now with the farmers on how to help manage pre-harvest management and post-harvest treatment of mangoes so that we ensure that farmers get the most out of their mango. Now, there's all the work that you've told us that you've been doing, Dr. Ndlela. So there's the attracting of the male species, there's all these other things that you've told us that the baiting and
Natural
introducing
enemies.
of the parasitoids.
Yes.
Right? What impact has that had since you started this program? When you were starting, farmers were getting 80% of their fruits destroyed. What's the current situation?
Okay, before I go to that, like I said, it's a package. On top of the three that I explained, we also have biopesticides. ICIPE is known for developing these technologies. Biopesticides, when you leave your bread for a long time or your garlic and you put it aside, after a few days you see something growing out of it, that is fungus. In nature, we also have fungus, which are out there, which we have harnessed, and we have seen that they are able, when they are sprayed on the insects, they also are able to kill the fruit flies. If we spray these, they kill the soil-dwelling stage of the insect. Like I said, after eating the mango, the mangoes drop to the ground. That's where they meet now. These are biopesticides, which is very much environmentally friendly. We have also been encouraging sanitation. We have what we call an augmentorium. This is a tent-like structure, which when farmers use, they put the rotting mangoes, the infested mangoes inside, and the fruit flies die inside. Because we've been releasing the natural enemy, the farmer's friend, the tent-like structure allows these small insects to come out and go again into the farm and do business. So we have seen farmers adopting these technologies and using them in their farms, and the success has been tremendous. Mostly, what is mostly used by farmers is male annihilation. This technique where they use the attractant together with the traps. Why? We've been asking around. They like this technology because they see the results. when you put a trap, this is just a small bucket. You can even use anything, a water bottle, anything that you can use. Just put that attractant inside, the fruit flies will come inside. So they like this technology because they can see you can get thousands and thousands. It can even feel maybe a kg or so of fruit flies can go into that bucket. So they can actually see the effect of the technology and they testify that it is working. All these technologies are available in Kenya and farmers have been using them, they have been adopting them. The only problem probably that is remaining right now is for the farmers to adopt this technology at area wide. Because if farmer A is using and farmer B is not using, that one we are fighting a losing battle. What we need is to have everyone in an area using these technologies so that they are complementary. So the farmers are not obliged to use everything that I've talked about. You can choose at least 2 or 3 compatible technologies. And if you look at what I've said, we are trying by all means to reduce the amount of pesticides that farmers are pumping into the ecosystem. We know very well the negative effects of pesticides, be it on human health, be it on animal health, be it on service pollinators. All those are affected by chemicals. And in any case, the market where we are aiming to send our mangoes, they do not want these pesticides. So we are encouraging farmers use to at least 3 of these technologies, and they have been using, they are adopting, and we have several companies in Nairobi who are providing these technologies at a cost. People can buy. The technologies that we develop as ICIPE together with partners, we take it to the private sector and they're able to give them out.
I'm a bit puzzled because the harmful effects of pesticides is known. The effectiveness or the lack of adequate effectiveness of some of these pesticides also known. Why then do farmers continue using them?
Pesticides are readily available. If you look at recent years, the production of pesticides in Asia, for example, China, production costs have really gone down, and production is actually easier to do. And most of these pesticides find their way into Africa. And if you go out into any of these adukas, you would find that there is something that a farmer can afford. And these people are also so vigorous in their marketing. They are there within the farmers. They are telling them, buy this, buy that, buy that. And even the farmers themselves have gone to an extent of taking pesticides that are not meant for fruit flies and spraying. So it's about what is available to me. So it is also a challenge to us. It is a challenge to the service providers to make sure that these fruit fly technologies, which are environmentally friendly, which are good to human beings, are readily available. If they are available in Nairobi, what about someone who is down in the interior of Eastern, Western? They need all those things. We have been working with these companies so that they decentralize. They make sure that these technologies are available to the farmer.
Mr. Momanyi, what have we seen then in terms of an improvement? If we're looking at 2003 and then further on, where we saw about 80% from, 100 mangoes is being destroyed. With these technologies and with these findings, have we been able to see an improvement on crop production in the last few years or since then?
There is an improvement.
Yeah.
Yes, George, go ahead.
There is indeed some improvement because I would mention about an area-wide initiative that has been running for the last couple of years, 2 years or so, in Makueni, and we've been basically monitoring the situation where we put some of those traps just to check whether those fruit flies are there. And when we've tried to check on those areas where the campaigns are being held, where they are deploying most of those technologies, indeed you find that there's very little infestation, and in some cases you don't even find those fruit flies at all. So indeed, I would say yes, there's an impact in areas whereby all the farmers have been sensitized to apply the technologies. But again, what I would say is the challenge most of the farmers in other areas have had is whereby one farmer deploys the technology, the others are not doing, so you find that the population still remain very high when not everyone is adapting the technologies. So then if we go the line of area-wide management and also engaging all the stakeholders to really make the process sustainable, there's really good hope. At the moment in that Makueni area where there's a lot of campaigns, we've been monitoring around 4,000 farmers, and we have the confidence that from that area, indeed, yes, we can have very good mangoes, which would then be certified for export to the EU.
But Momanyi, as I listen to what you're saying and also what Dr. Ndlela is saying, it's important to have that area-wide management, having all farmers in a specific area buy in to these methods. This is a campaign that's been going on for years. As we stand today, agriculture is a devolved function. Are you working with the county governments to sensitize farmers to adopt these practices? And what are these challenges that are making farmers, not all farmers, buy into this particular program?
Yeah, indeed, that's a good question. Indeed, there's really critical need to partner with the county government, given that agriculture is now a devolved function. And maybe if I can give the example of the Makueni, the county government of Makueni has participated in that fruit fly management initiative. And several players, including KEFIS and ICIPE and others, have been giving the technical backstopping on what needs to be done. So then the county government has been very supportive in distribution of those products and technologies, the sensitization aspects, and they're also developing regulations, because sometimes some of the people are just difficult. Some people may have 2 mangoes, others have 10, others have more commercial farming. So those people who are doing farming as a business are more serious on the management. But that's others who are doing a hobby, they don't really care whether they are fruit flies or not. So those are some of the nitty-gritties that make it very difficult for the area-wide management. But with the government, with the county government coming in, the county government can do bylaws. So everyone is bound to do what is expected at that level, and when there is that proper enforcement on the ground, somebody commits an offense if he doesn't do some of those operational aspects. So then that's the direction it's taking, and once the county government buys in and also engages the farmers on the ground, then there is not really a bigger challenge. But in a way, I would say the issue about farming as opposed to other countries is whereby we have all sizes of farmers. We have the large scale, we have the medium scale, we have the small scale. All of them are really called farmers, but their objectives are different. So putting them on the same, some may not even be able to afford the products. They're not serious on the farming. So even if you have technologies, they may not be willing to buy, or even if they bought them, they may not have ready market. There's issues about aggregation of the products, having good market for those mangoes and all that. So those initiatives are being taken up as a whole package, as a value chain approach. And we've seen that if we take the value chain approach, where we look through all the players in the system and engage them, and every person does their part, then we're likely to have a positive result.
How close does the government work with ICIPE?
As close as can be, because I represent the government, and ICIPE, we work together. When they have this project, we get involved. Personally, I've been involved in the fruit fly project they had for mangoes, where I was in their technical advisory committee and even the steering committee. So they quite involve the government, because the projects come and go, but then the government is what really needs to come in to see how the technologies are later deployed to the farmers, and also the aspect of sustainability. So indeed, we've been working closely. They don't work on their own, and I think they're also getting some funding, like the tax waivers from the government. So then we see ourselves as really a team and the collaborators.
Right. I think that was going towards my next question. Maybe also Dr. Ndelela can help out here as well. So one of the big issues for agriculture practitioners across the country is the cost of resources, the cost of raw materials and such inputs. A big deal when we are looking at this. So looking at this as an added technology that essentially is going to save a crop, how expensive is it for them? Or are we looking at, it being subsidized for farmers? Because it has been a bane of the cry for a very, very long time that, we can't afford to remain in this practice.
As far as fruit fly management is concerned, as more players are coming in the provision of these technologies that I've talked about, the price is also going down. And as we see more and more companies which provide these services decentralizing, going into the interior, we have more and more farmers accessing these products and applying in their cropping system.
But comparatively, if you look at now these technologies in integrated pest management, if you compare this with the pesticides, which is more expensive to the farmer? Which one is going to cost more for the farmer?
Cost can be taken into...
I'm looking at it just literally. How much is a farmer going to cough out to manage their mango crops using IPM versus how much they would cough out just going to the next agrovet and buying some pesticide?
IPM is easier because it is to your advantage. It is healthy. And we are talking about several components that you can, if you don't afford this, you take the other one. If you don't afford this, if you afford this at this particular time and in 2 months' time you can afford this, you see, it's a mix. You just choose. So it's according to your pocket. And I'm sure that is something that farmers can really ride on and say, we have been given options to choose from this and this and this. Whatever is doing, whatever is affordable, we can use.
All right. So I'm looking at it now from the angle of, we have, like Momanyi has explained, we have the small scale farmer who basically just has a mango fruit, a mango tree in their compound, in their farm. And then there's somebody who has done this commercially, a medium scale farmer to large scale farmer. They're doing this commercially. The small scale person does not have the incentive to invest in any of these pest control measures. Is there a role that maybe government, that maybe cooperatives can come in so that we get everybody on board? Because just like you're saying, if one of them is not on board, the efforts of everybody else are basically at risk.
We are looking at the whole production system holistically. If you look at what we have been talking about, it's about people. We have the local market. People are selling locally, but how much are they getting? We have people, they are sending their mangoes to Middle East. How much are they getting? So if we look at this holistically, we look at the big guys. If they are able to export their crop, this is much better. It cascades down. Because if, for example, the medium producer, he is able to buy from the small guys and he can export. But for now, he cannot export. We need to break into the export market, the lucrative export market, Europe, the USA. This is why we have come up with a technology. Now moving away from pre-harvest, that is before harvest, going to post-harvest. Yes. In post, okay.
No, you just finished.
Okay, in post-harvest, we have what we are calling hot water treatment. Right. All this that we have talked about will reduce the fruit fly infestation, but will not get rid of the fruit fly in the mangoes. What the exporter wants, the person who is sitting in Europe, because they are saying, these pests that we have are quarantined. We do not have them in Europe, and we do not want a chance of these pests coming to Europe. So you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that your produce that you are sending to Europe does not have fruit flies. This is why since 2014, Momanyi has said from the ICIPE side, they have come up with a self-ban. They said to themselves, we are not going to export until we put our house in order. And that putting the house in order is now. ICIPE being helped by several organizations currently with funds from BioInnovate Africa through CEDA. We have developed this hot water treatment. Hot water treatment, in short, we are saying, we have applied all these technologies and still we think there could be fruit flies inside. Let's subject these mangoes to hot water treatment. We heat water. This protocol that we have developed has even been accepted by the European Union. So it's up to Kenya now to implement the technology and export. We heat our water 46.1 degrees Celsius. We dip our mangoes for 68 minutes. And this offers quarantine treatment. This is an experiment that has been going for many years, trying this and that. So we are happy to announce that hot water treatment is the future of post-harvest treatment, and it gives that assurance that this mango that I am exporting does not have fruit flies. And Europe is ready for our mangoes.
Mwalimu, you have given us a lot of information today, and we thank you very much. Mwalimu Dr. Shepard Ndlela is from ICIPE. He is a scientist. He understands the issues of insects very well, as you've heard. And also joining us is George Momanyi. He's the Chief Inspector in the Phytosanitary Division of Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, who's joined us on the line. Momanyi, also thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
And just before you go, Momanyi, is there are these measures that you're taking, to ensure that the fruits that we export out of the country, or are they also being employed to ensure that the fruits that we eat in the country are safe?
Okay, I would say that at national level, yes, we have standards that ought to be followed, and we do also have a laboratory that tests the residues. But challenges about local is now the enforcement, because we don't really have capacity on the ground to be monitoring what people are selling in markets. And some of our members are also unscrupulous. You spray today, even when you had needed to have those pre-harvest intervals followed. Some of them may not be following. So what we've done is to come up with some regulations. There's some regulations we are putting up in place so that it makes enforcement easier. So that if you found you're not complying with this, it's an offense, and then it becomes easier now to stop those unscrupulous practices.
Thank you very much. We'll have a conversation about that as well, on food safety and ensuring food safety in the country. George Momanyi from KEFIS and Dr. Shepard Ndlela from ICIPE, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.